Welcome to this week's live video. Let's take stock of the commercial commitments that have been made, according to Trump and according to what we've heard from China. So first of all, on Boeing, Trump said that China would buy 200, quote, big airplanes from Boeing. He didn't specify what kind they might be. As well as 450 GE engines. Well, we finally got commitment or confirmation from China on that. They confirmed that they will buy 200. They didn't specify what kind of Boeings they would be. They also said that the agreement would, quote, guarantee the supply of aircraft engines and parts as well. That's very important to China. Remember, just last summer, the Trump administration used access to aircraft engines and parts as leverage over China and restricted China's access to those. So clearly, China sees this as a quid pro quo. They buy the Boeings, but they also have to be guaranteed access to engines and engine parts and airplane parts. Still, Boeing's stock price fell after the deal. That's because before Trump got on the plane to China, everyone was predicting a purchase of 500 airplanes. Again, it was only 200 that is part of the commitment. Also, last time Trump went to China, which was the last visit by a U.S. president in 2017, China agreed to buy 300. So more Boeings last time, although many of those purchases by China fell through. Agriculture. Trump has said that there will be $17 billion annually for the next 3 years in non-soybean purchases of agricultural goods. If you throw in the commitments that the U.S. has as well on soybeans, that brings it up to about $30 billion annually. This would be a significant improvement and a resumption back to where we were 2021 when before the first tariffs really kicked in and China really diversified away from the U.S. China, however, has not confirmed much of that. In a statement yesterday, the Ministry of Commerce said that indeed there was a guiding target, quote, for Chinese purchases of U.S. agricultural goods, that the two countries had the goal of, quote, expanding two-way agricultural trade. However, China said nothing about $17 billion or $30 billion. Just that the plan was, again, to expand two-way agricultural trade. Corn and soybean futures both have fallen on worries that the deal may not come through, at least at the levels touted by Trump. Beef is an area where it seems as if there's real progress. The Trump administration said there would be over 400 new approvals or relicensing for U.S. slaughterhouses or beef facilities to sell beef to China. China actually announced that there would be even a larger number, 600 U.S. slaughterhouses would now have a license to sell to China. I should note that just because they have a license to sell to China doesn't mean that China actually has to buy the beef. And China has shown a proclivity to try to protect its own beef industry in the past. Moving right down the line, chips. As we know, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, the world's most valuable company, joined the trip belatedly. He jumped on the plane in Anchorage at the refueling there. The expectation was that China would announce purchases of the quite advanced NVIDIA chip, the H200. There was absolutely no announcement on chips at all. As a matter of fact, ever since the Trump administration greenlighted the sale of the H200 to China, which I should note was viewed with great concern by many people, including people within Trump's own administration, who see it as a gift to China in the AI race with the U.S. This is clearly a point of leverage that the U.S. does have in advanced chip making. But apparently, that is not something the U.S. wants to press now. Indeed, as I said, the Trump administration greenlighted the sales of the H-200. China has bought 0 H-200s, as I said. In the past, they have expressed concern about um, a kill switch in the NVIDIA chips, which they say the U.S. could basically flip the kill switch and therefore shut down Chinese infrastructure that would be using the U.S. chip. They've also said that there's a backdoor they fear, which allows the U.S. government, in their minds, to spy on China if they do use the NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA has been called in by the Chinese government in the past, last year, to answer these allegations, and NVIDIA has, of course, has strongly denied that that is the case. But nevertheless, China has bought no chips, none of the H-200s. And Trump made a comment about how they might not want to buy them because they want to develop their own chips. Surprise, surprise. We've known that for a while. What a turn of events from protecting limiting China's access to advanced American chips to China, to actually offering them to China, and then having China reject them. Critical minerals or rare earths. This is an area where there was a big expectation that there should be some sort of progress going in. We heard that from, I believe, Treasury Secretary Bessent, USTR, Jameson Greer beforehand. And according to the White House readout, China this is what the White House said, China will address, quote, U.S. concerns on supply chain shortages of critical minerals, rare earths. China just yesterday, through its Ministry of Commerce, responded. It said that, first of all, our controls are legal, they're lawful. Our restrictions on global access, including the U.S. access to rare earths, critical minerals, are absolutely lawful. And that they added, we will address reasonable, quote, reasonable concerns that the U.S. has. In other words, China has said, we will continue to put any restrictions we want on global access and U.S. access to rare earths, critical minerals. We will continue probably to put quotas out in terms of who gets access to them. So really, very little happiness given to the Trump administration there. On tariffs, Trump issued a point blank denial that there was a discussion on tariffs at all. He said, quote, we didn't discuss tariffs. Well, guess what China said yesterday through its Ministry of Commerce? The Ministry of Commerce said, quote, we had in-depth discussions on tariffs with the Trump team. And we hope the U.S. will honor its commitments on tariffs. So somebody's not telling the truth here, either Trump or the Ministry of Commerce in China. The concern here for China is that new tariffs might be levied on their products. There are 2 investigations launched earlier this year under Section 301 of the Trade Act. One on the possibility that there's forced labor in Chinese supply chains. This has been focused on situation in Xinjiang and the cotton industry in the past, whether Uyghur Muslims have been put into forced labor there. And then also a separate investigation of state enterprises in China related to industrial overcapacity and whether that is a violation of trade agreements. If there was a determination that after those investigations that China indeed was in violation either on forced labor or on industrial overcapacity, then tariffs would be levied. And China does not want to see that happen. So lots of differences on what actually transpired during the Xi-Trump summit. And we haven't even talked about Taiwan or Iran. Iran, as I've mentioned before, is a place where there seems to be almost zero agreement on how to proceed going forward between the U.S. and China. That's it for this week. Tune in at the same time next Thursday.